Fundamental rights are so fundamental in nature that they cannot be taken away just like that. So in order to erase someone's fundamental rights, you have to go through a list of amendments, the procedure, these and that. Then only someone's fundamental rights can be curtailed. Other than that, there is not any possible manners by using what it can be curtailed. So in today's video, we are going to understand the very important essential features of fundamental rights under the Indian Constitution. So let's move into our very first slide. So this is the exact text from Indian Polity. So first I'll be reading it, then I'll try to explain it in the simplest manner possible. So it says the fundamental rights are enshrined in Part 3 of the Constitution from Article 12 to 35. So it's very important if we are reading Indian Constitution to understand which part or which subject are exactly fallen under which part. So for fundamental rights, it is on Part 3 of Indian Constitution. So this can come in MCQ or any other competitive exam. So this short thing we need to remember if we're dealing with certain chapters. So if we're talking about fundamental rights, then it is the very basic thing to know in which part fundamental rights are incorporated, and that is part 3 of the Indian Constitution from Article 12 to 35. In this regard, the framers of the Constitution derive inspiration from the Constitution of USA, for example, Bill of Rights. As we all know, our Indian Constitution is a borrowed bag because all of the provisions or most of the provision has been derived from various others constitution from various other countries constitution, and also these fundamental rights we have borrowed from USA, that is from Bill of Rights. Part 3 of the Constitution is rightly described as the Magna Carta of India. So it is another important point to note down that which particular provision is known as the Magna Carta of India, that is fundamental rights. It contains a very long and comprehensive list of justiciable fundamental rights. As you can see from Article 12 to 35, we have fundamental rights, and all the rights have been described in an elaborative manner. In fact, the fundamental rights in our constitution are more elaborate than those found in the constitution of any other country in the world, including the USA. So we have, incorporated the fundamental rights by seeing what USA has done with Bill of Rights. But when we talk about Indian constitution, the fundamental rights that we have incorporated is, given in a more detailed and comprehensive manner in comparison to the USA, that is Bill of Rights. The fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Constitution to all persons without any discrimination, and the right has been guaranteed by the Constitution itself that every person would be treated equally despite of their culture, race, religion, whatever it is, and the Constitution is itself is the guarantor of all the fundamental rights. They uphold the equality of all individuals, the dignity of the individual, the larger public interest, and unity of the nation. So, this is the very aim and scope of fundamental rights given by the Indian Constitution itself. The fundamental rights are meant for promoting the ideal of political democracy. So, this is another aim of incorporating fundamental rights into the very Constitution itself. They prevent the establishment of an authoritarian and despotic rule in the country and protect the liberties and freedoms of the people against the invasion by the state. So the state have to treat everyone equally despite their religion, despite their caste, despite their anything, and it is the protector of fundamental rights is the constitution itself. They operate as limitations on the tyranny of the executive and arbitrary laws of the legislature. So the fundamental rights works as limitation on the tyranny. In short, they aim at establishing a government of laws and not of men. So this particular paragraph is all about the aim of fundamental rights, or the aim of incorporating fundamental rights inside the very Constitution of India by the framers of the Indian Constitution. The fundamental rights are named so because they are guaranteed and protected by the Constitution, which is the fundamental law of the land. As I say, the very name has been given because they are very fundamental in nature, and they are guaranteed and protected by the fundamental law of the land, that is the very Constitution itself. They are fundamental also in the sense that they are most essential for the all round development, be it material, intellectual, moral, and spiritual, of the individual. So, this basically says why the fundamental rights are named as fundamental because of their very establishment procedure, because of their nature, because of their features, the rights are known as fundamental rights. Originally, the Constitution provided for seven fundamental rights. So, when the famous of the Indian Constitution adopted fundamental rights into the very Constitution, there were seven rights in total. Later one we have, transfer it to some another article which we'll be learning in this slide only. Right to equality that we have from article 14 to 18. It's talk about equality before law and equal protection of law. So on that article I have already made a detailed video. You can go and check that out, which where I have clearly defined the article from the barrack itself. Then we have right to freedom from Article 19 to 22, which talks about various freedom, be it freedom of expression, be it movement, be it association. Then we have rights against exploitation, that is Article 23 and 24, which prohibit any kind of exploitation of humans. Then we have right of religion, right to freedom of religion from Article 25 and 28. As we all know, India is a vast country. It's an amalgamation of many religion, many culture. So it is very important to preserve, or it is very important to secure all the religion that existed in our country. So for that reason only, this is the reason why we have right to freedom of religion under Article 25 to 28. Then we have cultural and educational right, that is from Article 29 and 30. Then we have right to property, which is Article 13. So this was earlier was added in the list of fundamental right. Later it was transferred to Article 300A, and which is now a legal right, not a fundamental one. Then we have right to constitutional remedies, that is Article 32. So we have fundamental rights. But what if our rights get violated and there is no scope for us to continue our rights? So that would be the waste of incorporating fundamental rights into the very constitution. In order to safeguard it, we have Article 32, that is right to constitutional remedies. Under this, we have writs. We have five type of writs. We have the powers of Supreme Court and High Court. So this is basically enforced in order to safeguard the fundamental rights given to citizens, and some of them which are given to the foreigners also. However, the right to property was deleted from the list of fundamental rights by 44 Amendment Act 1978. So it is an important point which can come in MCQ, that right to property is deleted by which Amendment Act, that is 44 Amendment Act in the year of 1978. It is made a legal right under Article 300A in Part 12 of Constitution. Earlier it was in Part 3 with all other fundamental rights. Later we have made it a legal right, and which now has its own shelter or its own residence in Article 300A in Part 12 of the Constitution. At present, there are only six fundamental rights. So earlier we had seven in total, but at present, just because we have removed this to another part, we have six in total. So now let's move into features of fundamental rights. As I already mentioned in my previous video also, that features are basically some of the basic parts of a human body. If we talk about a particular person, that the kind of eyes the person have, the kind of his body gestures, all are will be added in the list of features. So just like that, our fundamental rights also has some features which we will be understanding one by one. So here you can see 12 features has been given in Indian polity. Uh, they are very crisp, so you can just write it down and understand it. Uh, Let us go with the first. The fundamental right guaranteed by the constitution characterized by the following. So it can also be known as features or characteristics. Some of them are available only to the citizens, while others are available to all persons, whether citizens, foreigners, or legal persons like corporation or companies. So fundamental rights are given not only to the citizen, but some of them are available to the foreigners also, and some of them are given to the legal persons also. So legal persons here means some kind of corporation or companies which is considered as legal person. Then we have, they are not absolute but qualified. The state can impose reasonable restriction on them. However, whether such restriction are reasonable or not is to be decided by the court. Thus, they strike a balance between the rights of the individual and those of the society as a whole, between individual liberty and social control. So this basically says why we need restriction over certain rights. So this is the answer that has been given here. And as I said, Article 19 talks about all kind of freedoms, and With that, we have certain exception also which curtails our limit to certain point, and which is necessary in order to have a better development. All of them are available against the arbitrary action of the state. However, some of them are also available against the action of private individual. As I said, the state shall not do, then that's all of the barracks, all of the article has been started with that the state shall not. That means it is meant for the state that they should not discriminate any person on based of any ground. Some of them are negative in character, that is, place limitations on the authority of the state, while others are positive in nature, conferring certain privileges of the person. So, if we talk about fundamental rights as a whole, some of them are negative in nature, some of them are positive in nature. Just like Article 14. Article 14 is a both positive and negative concept as well. They are justiciable, allowing persons to move the courts for their enforcement if and when they are valid. As I say, Article 32 or to 26, on what basis people can go and enforce their fundamental rights if it's valid. They are defended and guaranteed by the Supreme Court. Hence, the aggrieved person can directly go to the Supreme Court, not necessarily by way of appeal against the judgment of the High Court. So, this is basically talking about the writ jurisdiction, that the person can appeal to the courts if his rights get violated. They are not sacrosanct or permanent. The Parliament can curtail or repeal them, but only by a constitutional amendment act and not by an ordinary act. Moreover, this can be done without affecting the basic structure of the Constitution. As I say, the fundamental rights are very fundamental in nature, that they can't be taken away just like that. If you want to remove certain part, if you want to bring some certain restriction, you have to go through a proper amendment procedure, which is given under Article 368 of the Indian Constitution. Other than that, that can't be happen. Then we have, they can be suspended during the operation of a national emergency except the rights guaranteed by Article 20 and 21. Further, the six rights guaranteed by Article 19 can be suspended only when emergency is declared on the ground of war or external aggression, that is external emergency, and not on the ground of armed rebellion. For example, internal emergency. The suspension of fundamental rights during a national emergency is explained, but this is not needed. So I have already made a detailed again a video on what is emergency, what is national emergency, what is state emergency, what is financial emergency. So this is basically talking about when fundamental rights can be curtailed or can be suspended. So if you want a more detailed explanation on that note, you can refer to that. So I'm skipping this part here. Moreover, this is a very feature of fundamental rights. Then we have the scope of operation. Their scope of operation is limited by Article 31A, that is saving of laws, providing for acquisition of estates, etc. Article 13B, validation of certain acts and regulations included in the ninth schedule, and Article 31C, saving of laws, giving effect to certain directive principle. So this is another features of fundamental rights. Then we have the application to the members of armed forces, paramilitary forces, police forces, intelligence agencies, and analog service can be restricted or abrogated by the Parliament. Article 33. Then we have the application can be restricted while martial law is in force in it in area. So what martial law is means military rule imposed under abnormal circumstances to restore order. Article 34. It is different from the imposition of national emergency. It is like the national emergency, but it is not exactly what national emergency is. Most of them are directly enforceable, self-executory, while a few of them can be enforced on the basis of a law made for giving effect to them. Such a law can be made only by the parliament and not by the state legislature. The uniformity throughout the country is maintained. That is given in Article 15. So this is basically 12 features of fundamental right that has been given here. So you can note it down if you want to just pause the video and write whatever is given here in the Indian polity itself. So now let's move into definition of state. Again, I have made a detailed video, so I am skipping this part here. Let's have this quick glance of this list. That is right to equality given in the Article 14. That is equality before law and equal protection of law. Again, a detailed video is already there. Then we have Article 15, which talks about no discrimination against anything. Again, there's a video. I'll try to link it or add it in the description itself. Then we have equality in opportunity of matters in Article 16, abolition of untouchability, Article 17, abolition of titles, that is except military and academic. So earlier the people used to have some titles which have been prohibited in the Article 18. Then we have right to freedom from Article 1922, which talks about right to movement, right of speech and expression, assembly, association, residence and professions. Then we have protection, respect of convention of offences, our protection of life and personal liberty. Then we have life right to elementary education, that is Article 21A. Then we have protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. So all of that I have covered already. I'll pin in the description box itself. Then we have protection against arrest and detention in certain cases, that is Article 22, right against exploitation, Article 23 and 24, prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. Then we have prohibition of employment of children in factories, that is Article 24. Then we have right to freedom of religion from Article 25 to 28, with freedom of conscience and free provision, practice and propagation of religion, that is in Article 25. Then we have freedom to manage religious affairs. So this is basically a quick table which added all the articles in a systematic manner. Then we have right to constitutional remedies, and these are the lists which is available. Some of them are available to citizens, some of them are available to the foreigners. Uh, so this is the list. You can write it down by pausing the video. And we have right to equality, that is Article 14. So again, I'm not gonna discuss it here further because I have already covered it. So I have also made a video while using trick. You can remember what Article 14 exactly is. So let's move into Article 15. Again, Article 15 talks about prohibition on grounds, which I have already covered. So skipping that part. Then we have Article 16, which talks about equality of opportunity in public employment. So that's all about today. So here I have tried to cover the part which I haven't covered already, that is what is fundamental rights, from where we have incorporated it, what are the basic essentials or basic features of fundamental rights. Later the articles that is mentioned here, I have already covered a detailed elaboration on that very article. So that's all about today. Hope you find this video worth watching. So to let me know in the comment section so that I get motivated to bring more such legal updates or legal such articles to you. That's all for today. Thank you for watching the video.